Her own fans said no, twice. Not quietly, not with a shrug. They slammed the door, turned the deadbolt, and left the Do Not Disturb sign swinging. A brand new league rolled out the carpet, flashed a headline valuation, whispered about 7 figures for 8 weeks, and still got a very public rejection from the one audience that should have been easiest to win. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when people read the room better than the room reads itself. So here's the real question. If the money looks shiny and the marketing looks loud, why did the most invested fanbase in women's basketball tell their own star to walk away? It wasn't just loyalty. It wasn't just pride. It was calculation. A protective reflex born from months of watching how the market moves when her name is involved. And it starts with a simple truth that cuts through every press release. Money talks, but scale shouts louder. Think about the pitch. Short season, warm weather, player-driven brand, fewer flights, big checks. On paper, it sounds efficient, it sounds smart. Yet in every poll that mattered, the answer came back the same. Don't do it. That looked irrational until you factored in the bigger scoreboard. Distribution, reach, the credibility of the stage itself. Fans don't just invest in a player's bank account. They invest in her orbit. They think about arenas sold out weeks in advance, broadcasts that snowball, partnerships that tilt nationwide. A quick bag means very little if it shrinks the spotlight, and their message was crystal clear. The spotlight is the point. The timing didn't help. Announcements landed during contract noise, union noise, headline noise, exactly when emotion can be mistaken for leverage. A valuation was posted like a victory flag. Expansion graphics dropped like confetti. It looked bold. It also looked like a negotiation tactic aimed straight at the heart of a CBA storm. Fans aren't accountants, but they're not naive either. They saw posture in the press and asked the only question that matters. Does this move grow her legend or just test it? There's a cultural layer to this too. She's the lightning rod of the sport. Every night, eyes find her first. Cameras track her before tip, during huddles, walking back to the tunnel. That kind of attention changes how people behave, even the people on your side. In one league, that friction is already obvious. Competitors jabbing on social, little slights after whistles. Storylines that flare up out of nothing. Now imagine stepping into a new environment where the rivals aren't just across the court. They're part of the business engine. They share equity. They share decisions. They share ownership of the product you're supposed to elevate. It's a tightrope. And when a tightrope stretches over a brand, fans vote for the ground. The product question mattered as well. A condensed format is fun in small doses. It's made for bursts, for clips, for instant highlights. But a condensed format is also a gamble when your audience wants to see full-frame packet ball reach its highest stakes. Calling something the future doesn't make it the main stage. Venues with intimate capacity can be electric in the building and underwhelming on television. The atmosphere you feel doesn't always transmit through a screen. Her fans are not anti-novelty, they're anti-downgrade. They want scale. They want the biggest stage, the sharpest presentation, the sense that every game could shift the sport. They want gravity. Here's the part that is easiest to miss. Her fans don't think in 8-week slices. They think in arcs. They remember what happens when one player rewires demand. When interest outgrows inventory, everything else follows. Sponsorships, rights, relevance, the whole stack. They've watched that stack start to reconfigure itself around her. That's why a 7-figure offer for 2 months doesn't make them blink. To them, she isn't a one-season rental. She's an engine. Engines run systems. Systems outlast salaries. And yet, this wasn't a burn-it-down response. It was a boundary. There was no parade of insults, no gleeful mockery. Just a firm line. Not now. Not there. Not like this. The nuance is important. They weren't saying the new league can't work. They were saying it can't work at her expense. When you have a once-in-a-generation draw, you protect the leverage that draws everything else toward it. That's not arrogance. That's stewardship. Now let's talk about the chess of it all. Announcing expansion before demand is obvious is a high-wire play. It signals confidence. It also exposes you if the next step doesn't land. Growth should feel inevitable. This felt impatient, and impatience reads as need. Need is the one scent you can't wear when courting a star who already lifts an entire ecosystem. It doesn't matter how many graphics you post, or how slick the sizzle reel looks. If the building feels smaller than the brand you're trying to attract, the pitch collapses under its own aesthetics. You can see why the fanbase defended the status quo. The current stage is imperfect, but it's massive and getting bigger. It's backed by distribution muscle that touches millions without trying. It comes with built-in rivalries that actually feel like rivalries, because the stakes are obvious. It's not just a league, it's a language. She speaks it fluently. So do her fans. They've waited years for the moment when that language would finally be heard as loudly as it deserves. They're not stepping off the highway for a promising side road with fresh paint. There's also the unspoken worry. What if the new project needs her more than she needs it? That's a brand trap. When a league feels like a bet on a single name, the calculus flips from partnership to dependency. Dependency is fragile. If anything misfires, schedule, injuries, broadcast slots, production quality, the fallout lands on her reputation first. Not fair, still true. Her base understands that every minute she spends somewhere is a statement about how she values her own prime. They want the statement to be unmissable. Here's where the math gets loud. Influence at scale compounds. A singular night can elevate a city's numbers. A singular season can reprice inventory. A singular personality can bend the attention curve so steeply that networks remake their programming around it. If the new offer doesn't meet that compounding effect, it feels small. Even if the headline dollar figure isn't. Scale beats salary. Every time. And that leads to the silence, maybe the most powerful move she's made. No public shade, no messy quotes, no victory laps over somebody else's stumble. Just performance, ticket spikes, broadcast surges, a wave of kids copying the shooting pocket and the footwork and the little hand signal after a big shot. When you can let audiences do the talking and they keep saying the same thing, your leverage grows without a single tweet. The quiet isn't emptiness, it's dominance. But that wasn't the whole story. The other side of this saga believes in a different future. Player-founded, player-led. A modern shop that builds stars differently and faster. That vision isn't insignificant. The founders have credibility. The press loves the premise. The checkbooks behind it aren't imaginary. If it all clicks, it could give women's basketball something valuable. A lab. A place to test new camera angles, new formats, new ways to deliver intimacy. That's not a bad idea. It's just not the idea for her. Now, at this stage of the ascent. And here's the friction that keeps surfacing. When you mix a co-op spirit with a singular superstar, you better build a structure that doesn't make the superstar feel like a guest in a home she's supposed to anchor. The seat at the table has to come with power equivalent to the view she provides out the window. Titles and equity percentages on paper don't always translate to real control. Fans can smell that difference, even when they can't articulate it. What they heard was an invitation to sit at a table set by people who have already decided what the meal is. What they wanted was a kitchen. If you were advising her for 8 weeks, what would you say? Take the cash or protect the brand? Drop a one-word verdict in the comments. cash or legacy? That's it. No essays. Just your gut answer. Then we'll see where the room really stands. Back to the board. The strongest arguments for her to join are efficiency and upside. Efficiency: fewer games, lighter travel, concentrated exposure. Upside: the promise of equity that could grow if the project surges. Those arguments are reasonable. Efficiency is seductive for any athlete staring at a year-round schedule. Equity is seductive for anyone thinking in decades. But neither is persuasive if the product doesn't feel like a career crescendo. You don't trade headlining a stadium tour for an intimate club run unless that club is the stepping stone to something even bigger. And right now, there's nothing bigger than steering the main stage. There's also the subtle point her fans keep making. The best way to grow the entire pie is to supercharge the league that can feed the most mouths the fastest. That means staying where the ceiling keeps rising. It's not charity, it's acceleration. If you want mainstream, you have to ride the mainstream platform just as it tips from niche to norm. That's the window we're in. Jumping off the ride mid-climb might be memorable. It won't be wise. Critics will say the fan base is risk-averse. Maybe. Or maybe they've learned from how other sports evolved. Rival leagues have flare-ups. Some work as showcases. Few become destinations. The ones that last do so because they offer either superior distribution or a wildly superior experience. Superior distribution is hard to beat. A wildly superior experience is harder to manufacture than a press release suggests. You can't just declare future. You have to show it, not once. Over and over, until the audience forgets there was a before. Now imagine the never signs scenario. The new league still lives, carves out a niche, refines the product, picks smart partnerships, gets sharper on the broadcast, and matures into a staple of the off-season. That's a win for the players who thrive in its rhythm. That's a win for fans who love behind-the-scenes access and a tighter, more experimental format. But it becomes a boutique offering by design, not by accident. Boutique can be cool. Boutique rarely leads. Flip it. Imagine a not now, but later pivot. The new league grows into bigger arenas. The broadcasts punch through beyond highlight reels, and the audience doubles. The perception flips from experimental to essential. At that point, the equation changes. Equity becomes more than a promise. It becomes a weapon. Then, a cameo turns strategic, not symbolic, because it plugs into something that already matches her scale. In that world, the fans won't say no. They'll say, finally. Between those futures, the present remains blunt. The stage she's on is swallowing every old narrative and spitting out new ones. Ticket lines snake around buildings. Young players mimic her release on playgrounds. Rival fan bases show up just to see what the noise is about. That doesn't happen by accident either. That happens when a sport hits its pop culture moment and refuses to let go. You don't step off the rocket in the middle of ascent to test a parachute. Not when the night sky is opening. If you want a single sentence that explains the double rejection, it's this. They believe her presence moves markets, and markets print bigger checks than any single offer. That's not shade to a new idea. That's respect for how value accumulates. It's the difference between a salary and a stake in the story of a game. She's not an employee of basketball. She's an author of it. The human side matters too. The daily load, the noise in the tunnel, the interviews where every word turns into 3 separate think pieces. When the pressure is that constant, stability matters. Familiar routines matters. The people around you who understand how you operate matter. Not because you're fragile, because you're finite. Prime years are short. Good teammates are gold. Good systems multiply greatness instead of feeding off it. The fans want her insulated by the best of those systems, coaches who let her stretch, teammates who sharpen her without quiet resentment, executives who understand that the job isn't to ride the wave, but to widen it. And underneath everything is that little spark you can't measure. Her playing style makes people feel things. The range is audacious, yes, but it's the tempo changes that hook you. The pauses, the quick reads, the jab that doesn't break rhythm, the pass that splits a camera lens you didn't know was there. That's why packed buildings don't feel like crowds. They feel like witnesses. The league learned that. The networks learned that. Kids who never watched a full game before learned that. You don't say yes to a side quest when the main story is finally this alive. So where does that leave the innovators who want to build something different? With a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge: prove your scale. Don't tell us it's the future. Make it feel like the present is already transformed when we tune in. Get the production right. Get the camera language right. Make the court feel big, the stakes feel bigger, and the stars feel central without making them look surrounded by skepticism. The opportunity: become the bridge for the next wave of stars who need a platform to accelerate from promise to phenomenon. Do that, and you won't need to dangle anyone. The phone will ring on its own. Meanwhile, the main league has its own work to do: pay structure, travel standards, scheduling, the unglamorous stuff that builds trust. The fan base's loyalty isn't unconditional, it's provisional. They're backing the bigger stage because it finally looks like it's backing her. Keep that promise, and the lift continues. Break it, and you reopen a door that was just slammed shut. This is how markets talk to institutions, with attention and with silence. Right now, attention is screaming. Nobody wants to hear silence next. What makes this story so compelling is that there are no villains. There are visions. One vision is to revolutionize delivery. The other is to expand the mass platform so fast it leaves the old ceiling in splinters. Both matter. Both can win. But only one aligns perfectly with where her arc is pointing today. And when the arc is right, everything else bends toward it. The short lines the fans keep repeating are simple. Keep the spotlight. Protect the brand. Make the big stage irresistible. Those aren't cliches. They're instructions. They've watched how one player can tilt ratings, sell out arenas that never sold out before, normalize women's basketball as a primetime event instead of a niche curiosity. They know exactly what's at stake because they've paid for the tickets, crashed the streaming apps, and turned the game into a social ritual. They didn't just show up, they scaled it. And maybe that's why the refusals felt so decisive. Twice is a pattern. Twice is a verdict. Twice is the market saying, we see the game inside the game. If the new project wants a different answer, it has to change the question. Not, will you help us become credible? But, do we now amplify you more than your current stage does? When the answer to that is finally yes, she won't need convincing. Neither will they. Until then, the smartest move is the quiet one she's already making. Play. Sell out buildings. Keep the cameras honest. Let the metrics run out of breath trying to catch up. Let kids fall in love with the step backs and the skip passes and the fearlessness from logos that used to be decorations, not launch pads. It's not about evading risk. It's about choosing the right kind of risk. The kind you take when the moment is getting bigger, not smaller. Here's the last thought I can't shake. Every sport has an inflection point where it stops asking for permission and starts setting the schedule for everyone else. Women's basketball is there, not approaching it. There. That doesn't mean every new idea is wrong. It means the place where the most people are watching is where the most transformation happens. Fastest. If you're the one who turns that key, you don't put it down to try a different door. You twist harder. So no, the double rejection wasn't spite. It was strategy. not fear. Focus. A boundary made of belief that the largest stage is the truest multiplier of the one player who makes the needle jump without trying. The future will always have room for experiments, for labs, for cool side projects that become cult favorites. But legends are built where the lights are hottest, the arenas are loudest, and the game feels like a nation turning its head at the same time. We'll watch the new league's next move. We'll watch the announcements, the partnerships, the sizzle reels, the schedule drops, all of it. If it scales, the conversation changes. If it doesn't, the answer won't either. Either way, the next months will be loud. The sport has never felt more alive. And the most powerful thing she can do is exactly what she's done from the start. No declarations, no drama, no detours. Just buckets, just wins, just that calm glare after a 28-footer that reminds everyone this isn't hype chasing her. This is the center of gravity moving to wherever she stands. Sometimes the smartest play is letting the market come to you. Sometimes the biggest statement is staying put while everything around you begins to orbit. We're living inside that statement now. And if you're still torn between the quick reward and the longer legend, look at the arenas, listen to the ratings, watch the kids wearing her number and trying her footwork on cracked asphalt courts. The choice made itself. The moment did the math. Next time, we'll pull on one thread that could actually flip the equation. A single off-season move that might expand the stage without shrinking the brand. But that's a story for another night. For now, cash or legacy, your call.